Hello and welcome. Tonight, we won't be following the trails of nobility or armored heroes. Instead, we'll slip quietly into the silent corners, alongside the workers whose hands kept the castle alive, even though their faces were seldom noticed. The kitchen servant, already at work when the moon is high, the spit-turner, wearied by the fire, the washerwoman, numbed by the cold, the sentry, ever watchful while others slumber. This is their tale, a story not dressed in splendor, but woven with hard labor, tired bodies, and steady determination. 10 people, 10 days, all beneath the same rooftop, each living in a world of their own. If these gentle tales from the past help you relax, you're most welcome to show your support by liking or subscribing, but only if you find real comfort here. I would also love to hear where you're listening from, and the time on your clock. Knowing how far these gentle stories travel always warms my heart. So breathe deeply, let the hearth's glow wrap around you, dim the lights, and join me. Not with rulers, but with those who served quietly beneath them. A new day begins, not because your rest is finished, but because the chilled stone beneath you has finally taken away the last of your warmth. The cook has also walked across you twice. Such is the start of your day as the youngest member of the kitchen staff, often overlooked unless there is a mess to clean or blame to be assigned. You have no wage, little chance to wash, and are mostly invisible unless someone needs your help. You sleep by the kitchen fire because even a little warmth is better than none, but warmth just means not quite as icy as outside. Your blanket is a rough sack stuffed with straw past its usefulness. It carries the scents of burned fat, damp logs, and dashed hopes. Your single outfit, a rough, colorless dress, serves as both night clothes and workwear, and maybe, gets properly cleaned once or twice a year. You rise before sunlight, before roosters, perhaps even before spirits awake. Why so early? Because everything, lighting fires, carrying water, baking bread, scrubbing surfaces, must be ready before the upper floors begin to stir. Officially, this is everyone's job, but truthfully, the older girls in the kitchen know how to disappear when chores are divided. You haven't learned that art yet, or perhaps you never will. During the night, the hearth fire died out, its heat gone and embers cold. That's trouble, as a silent kitchen is useless. You head outside, bare feet on the cold, slippery stones. Your shoes were lost in spring and given a new life keeping out the draft. Still, you gather sticks, fingers too cold to feel the splinters. Once inside again, you huddle low and coax a spark from damp branches and a handful of quiet frustration. At last, the fire flickers up, and you hold out your hands until the blood returns, and you feel human again. Next comes water. There is no plumbing here, only you to fetch what's needed. You hoist 2 full buckets from the deep well, yoke balancing on narrow shoulders, trudging back and forth through the chill. Each trip drains your strength, yet breakfast is still just a word. By the time the others shuffle in, rubbing their eyes, stretching, you are on your 4th journey. No one says thank you or even looks your way. You're simply a walking tool. Suddenly, the cook sweeps in like a summer storm, already sweating, voice echoing, and wielding a spoon that's seen more discipline than any traditional switch. She shouts about unclean pots, so you start to scrub. The work is rough enough to make your knuckles sting. There's no real soap here, only ash, sand, and, on lucky days, lye. The lye burns, and so does the ash, and your right hand knows both pains well. Your left hand, even more so. The scullery feels more like a punishment than a workspace, with a small, sooty window offering no relief. The air stinks of overcooked meat and something else you'd rather not guess at. Much of your long day is spent hunched over, scraping away grease, swatting at bold rats with the end of a ladle. About those rats, they are the real rulers here. You just try to keep things moving. Morning advances, though you haven't tasted a meal. There's a crumb of bread tucked into your apron, dry as old chalk. You eat quickly behind the door, but guilt betrays you. Caught by a kitchen maid, you earn yourself the worst task, cleaning chamber pots for the week. Eventually, you're promoted to onions. This just means spending hours chopping and weeping, though no one worries about your tears. Everyone assumes you're crying for your life, not from the onions. Around midday, the upstairs folk eat. You step just where you're told and never make eye contact. The families prefer to forget that those who carry their food are real. You stand silent, holding a jug for an hour, but never pour. Arms heavy, you wait. Once the meal is finished, it falls to you to clean again, clearing up spilled gravy, bones dropped carelessly, fruit half chewed, something unrecognizably fishy. It all goes to the slop bucket. You're not allowed to keep leftovers, but just once, you steal a tiny piece, just enough to go on. Afternoon fades until it's nearly night. You keep carrying water, peeling roots, washing floors, sweeping halls. Someone blames you for a mess in a room you've never seen, but they blame you anyway. Dinner prep is louder and hotter, the kitchen fire roaring, the noise bouncing off the beams. A pot falls. The cook shouts. A small fire sparks up. You put it out with your apron and move on. Your next meal comes from a single bowl passed between 5 girls. The stew is mostly liquid, with a lump here and there, maybe a bit of squirrel. You eat anyway. As the noble evening meal is served upstairs, you stand quietly once more, a shadow in the corner. Your feet are soaked, your back stiff, and your voice is limited to a few quiet, "Yes, cook," or "Sorry, cook," or "It won't happen again, cook." After dark, you're scrubbing dishes again, bones stuck as if welded to the pan. Your hands shake now, not from the cold, but from sheer tiredness. Dismissed at last, you crawl to your sack by the embers of the fire. Your shift still damp, you carry the smells of smoke, onions, and exhaustion. Someone's already asleep near you. Another girl is softly crying. You pretend not to notice, not wanting to know. You linger half awake, remembering how you became part of this world. Your life wasn't chosen. Your mother bent over the dairy troughs till her back failed. Your aunt, gone from the fever she caught while washing clothes at the river. And now, it is your turn. This is a chain passed down, your part of the old inheritance. Endurance, like a strapped ladle handed from one tired hand to the next. There's no way up. You won't become the cook or the housekeeper or embroider fine linens by candlelight. That's a dream written by others. You simply grow older, your hands grow stiffer, until someone younger takes your place. So you notice the rhythms, the unspoken alliances, the survival lessons. Never correct the cook. Always share hard bread with the girl who's hurt. Keep clear of the steward. Move quickly if you hear fine shoes behind you. Better to be brushed aside than trampled. There's gossip, of course. Stories exchange hands instead of coins. Some say the chief servant has a hidden romance. Others whisper about the young knight's unusual appetite. During special banquets, stress and work triple, and at day's end, you feel emptied out. Tired doesn't begin to describe it. Then comes winter, the harshest test. You push through coughs, wear layers made of rags, sometimes watching water freeze in your bucket before you reach the kitchen. Still, you keep working. For if you falter, another will take your place. You have learned, quiet suffering is called a virtue, especially for girls. Once, you had a name. Now, you are just girl or you there. Not a hero, not a legend, just a piece of the castle's machinery. Still, the castle depends on you. You get up early, you fix the hinges, you keep the bucket straight, You scrub until things shine brighter than any coin you'll ever have. No statue will honor you. No song will tell your tale. But if you vanished, the kitchen would collapse within days. Your rest is uneasy, dreams foggy and strange. Sometimes open fields, sometimes distant boats, sometimes nothing. You awake parched and heavy-limbed. Another identical day waits and nobody notices. Perhaps, except for Lord Crumbs. Today, you are the spit-turner. This is your position, either good fortune or bad luck, depending on whether you like sitting in front of a fire for hours, thinking about what brought you here. You're perhaps 9, perhaps 12, small enough to duck under the mantle, old enough to stop crying at every burn. Orphaned, maybe, or given up, or your family convinced you this was an opportunity. You sit on a bench, if you have one, by the roasting hearth, turning the heavy spit, steadily, quietly, unless told to change pace. Sometimes you're told to stop. Sometimes you're told you're too slow or not dignified enough. Once you got in trouble for blinking too much. The heat is relentless, not gentle, a roasting that wraps skin and breath. Your cheeks are always red, hair damp, your clothing scorched and carrying the scent of every kind of meat. Once, the smell made you happy. Now it makes your head ache. Blisters are inevitable. If you burn your hand, you wrap it and keep turning. Burn your eyebrows? They'll grow back. Faint? Land somewhere safe, if you can. There are no rests here. The meat sets the rules. The fire doesn't care. The meal must be perfect, or someone will pay the price. Sometimes a stern word, sometimes something worse. On festival days, the workload grows. Larger spits, whole birds or pigs, sometimes even a deer. It once took 2 of you to turn a single roast. Your partner, mean and mischievous, disappeared one day. Someone said he's with the hounds now. You sit for hours, losing feeling in your knees, sometimes certain your foot has gone numb for good. If you make a sound, you'll be scolded. If you make a mistake, something gets thrown in your direction. The kitchen is a storm. Everyone shouts, slams pans, rushes back and forth with drinks and platters. You sit quietly, invisible, until something goes wrong, and then everyone remembers you. When the main course is finally served, you help remove it with care. Boiling, dripping fat can scald. Flinch, and you're scolded. Hesitate, and you're hit. Then it's back to the work. Another roast, another pie, another bubbling pot with its own terrible aroma. You don't know what time it is. Your whole world is firelight and hunger. On occasion, someone offers you an actual bone, barely picked clean. You savor it alone, then go back to your work. As the afternoon dims, the fire leaves your face red, lips dry and cracked, hands covered with soot, lungs aching from smoke. You keep turning, listening to the sounds of distant laughter in the upper rooms you'll never see. You exist so others stay comfortable. Once the feast ends, you aren't done. You help bring back platters containing leftovers you'll never taste. Scraps are collected, dishes are rinsed, the heavy spit is dragged to a corner for cleaning. Your muscles protest, but you try not to wince. The master of the kitchen orders more for the dogs, so you start the process all over. Tonight, the hounds will eat well, better than you. It grows late. Your tunic sticks to your skin, hair stiff with fat, hands trembling from both effort and hunger. Eventually, you're given a bowl of simple porridge, just water, grain, and sometimes a turnip. You swallow it in silence. There's no energy left for talk. All the tools must be spotless before inspection. Dull knives, the spit, the giant hooks. If you miss even a smear, you'll clean it with your own spit, or, worse, get stuck cleaning the master's bathroom floors. The kitchen quiets as darkness settles. The last pan is set aside, the shouting stops. You sit near the fading fire, unable to move, too restless to sleep. A rat hurries past. You're too tired to care. You think of your old life. Perhaps your family herded sheep or milled grain. Perhaps they still do. Or perhaps you were an extra mouth they couldn't afford to feed. There is no exit here. If fortune is kind, your wounds will heal, your back will stay straight a little longer. Maybe, just maybe, by 20, you'll rise to assistant cook, if you survive that long. Winter is especially cruel. The stone walls cut no cold, despite the fire. Your side facing the flames burns, the other side freezes. You turn, warming and chilling, like a living piece of meat. Your shoes are old rags tied together. Your knees creak. Your joints stiffen from so much time crouched. Some days your hands are so hurt from heat and frost, you don't know if you're holding the spit or if it's holding you. Your cough is always with you now, your skin rough and peeling. You smell always of burned fat, which might sound good, but it sets you apart. Your arm bears the marks of so many burns that it could be mistaken for bark. No one offers you salves. Only the wealthy see the healer. You're told to rub lard on the burns and get back to work. Rank means a lot in the kitchen. Even the pastry assistant, even the boy who fetches eggs, has more respect than you. The begging dog is higher up. It sometimes gets scraps. On good days, the steward gives you a quick nod, and that's the highlight of the week. You wonder sometimes what life might be if you left. Then you remember, spit boys don't go anywhere. You grow up to fill some other post, or you don't grow up at all. You find your place again by the fire, legs pulled up, arms wrapped tight around knees. The flames are small, but the old burns scorch your skin anyway. You stare into the red coals and wonder what warmth without pain must feel like. But you don't know. You never have. Outside, snow falls gently. Inside, meat roasts, and between the two, there you remain, unseen, unchanged, endlessly turning. Every settlement, every castle, relies on someone to deal with what is left behind after the day. That person is you, the waste collector, known more kindly as the gong farmer. If it ends up in a chamber pot, it's your responsibility. If it lands in the latrine, you're the one to retrieve it. You occupy the lowest position, yet somehow this work exists, and pays better than many others, for a simple reason: almost no one wants to do it. Your work begins at night, by design. People would rather not see you or notice the smell during daylight. You are not allowed in the market until you have thoroughly bathed, though the odor never truly leaves you. It becomes part of your skin. People cross the road to avoid you. Some pretend not to notice you at all. Your equipment is basic: a rake, a bucket, and a sturdy shovel. Your clothing is made of layers, packed with moss or anything you hope might block at least some of the smell, but no matter what you try, the stench always finds a way. Your main task is clear: descend into the cesspits, dig out the packed, aging, and often fluid troubles that have gathered below ground, and remove it before it flows into the walkways. You climb down carefully, sometimes with a ladder, sometimes clutching a rope. The odor is overwhelming, hitting you like a physical blow, burning your eyes, clinging to your tongue. Breathing through your mouth only means you now taste it as well. You walk slowly, your boots making dull noises on the soft, squelching slant, surrounded by an unthinkable mess, ankle deep in places, sometimes deeper. Among the sludge, you find old and new waste, broken pots, soaked straw, tossed food, torn linens, the occasional unlucky animal, and once, a chicken whose arrival still puzzles you. Sometimes a forgotten coin lands in your bucket. You keep such treasures. You feel you've earned them. Each time the bucket fills, you heave it up and dump the contents into your cart, a battered wooden box that groans under the load. This is repeated over and over, especially when a big feast has sent plenty extra down into the dark. When your cart is full of what old records gently call night soil, you push it beneath flickering torches, tracing new tracks through empty streets. If someone spots you, they might whisper prayers, wrinkle their noses, or even throw something your way. One child once hit you with a cabbage. You returned something else, not your proudest moment. You take it all past the town to the edge, where it's dumped, usually near the fields, so the refuse can become fertilizer. The same noblemen who avoid looking at you will unknowingly enjoy crops grown from it. Medieval recycling, you might say. By first light, the main job is finished, but you're not done. You rinse your tools in a pond already dirtied by many shifts, change your filthy clothes, wash your hands, though nothing can truly banish the odor. People can always tell when you've worked. Some will not sit with you, others will not share their table. You try to be proud. From a certain point of view, your work is honest, even vital. If you stopped, disaster would spread. You are no hero, but you stand between comfort and calamity. Meals are small and eaten alone. Everything, even fresh bread, seems flavored by the long hours spent near the pit. You drink beer, as water is risky, and working sober in these conditions is a challenge few can accept. Winter brings its own troubles. The waste freezes, along with your hands and toes. Your breath frosts and vanishes in the air, while you chop through the thick, icy layer just to reach the filth below. It is the only warmth you wish you didn't have. In summer, it's worse in other ways. The heat sends the stench everywhere. Flies and wasps become regular visitors, and sweating through your clothing is unavoidable. You've tried every old remedy for masking the smell. Vinegar baths, crushed herbs, mint leaves, but these only make things sweetly rotten. People use your job as an insult. Some assume you must be uneducated. In truth, you know well how to secure a ladder, how to position yourself so not to fall, and which lamps are safe around pockets of gas. Ironically, your wage is higher than most castle helpers. You'll never live in splendor, but you have your own modest hut. Still, no one envies your position. Hunger would be preferred by most than the work you do. When your shift ends at dawn, you pull your empty cart home, lean your shovel aside, and rest on a bench. Not because it's clean, but because it's there. Sometimes you sleep outside, because your family cannot bear the smell within the walls. Your children tell you that you smell like boiled cabbage and trouble, and you can't disagree. You learn to accept that the scent will always remain, even haunting your dreams. Your hands are always rough, fingernails always rimmed with dirt, and you no longer bother to try scrubbing it away. Once you could make out the scents of flowers, grass, and wood smoke. Now all you smell is decay. You sense rot in everything. Your senses have changed permanently. Sometimes the guards make jokes. "Don't fall in," they say, as if it's a new trick. Once, a guard nearly pushed you into the pit. That one didn't make you laugh. You rarely let yourself dream about change, a job in baking perhaps, or as a record keeper. But when you wake, your hands still carry the signs of the night's labor. So you wash your face, adjust your worn tunic, and return to the pit, because someone must still lift the bucket. As the sky brightens and the first birds begin their song, you finish your task. The castle will soon be busy. Noble folk will use their elegant basins, never considering what comes next. And you? You vanish into the shadow, unseen except by the flies that remember your name. You, on the other hand, wear shoes. A sign you outrank most of the castle's workers. Stiff leather, curled at the toes, shoes that squeak with every careful step. This is not ideal, since being quiet is much of your job. You serve as the chamberlain's assistant, managing records, checking storerooms, and pretending to understand all the finer points of protocol and order. You are not of the noble class, far from it. Still, you occupy a position that brings you access, walking through rooms many only see in passing, collecting information, writing figures, staying steady even when the lady of the house shouts that her sheets smell odd. Your morning starts early, rising in the servants' hall, closer to the comforting warmth of the main fire, the fire not used for cooking or cleaning. You wash your face, tidy your hair with your hands, brush off your own clothing. Appearance is important. The first duty is to replace old candles in the hallways. You walk quietly, fitting new tallow tapers in, saving the fine beeswax for important rooms. As you move, you notice any small problem. This is your second task. If salt runs low, write it down. If the wine cellar is short, check it out. If a chamber pot is full in a guest's room, you find someone to deal with it. Downward delegation is the oldest tradition. The chamberlain, always awake, as if he never sleeps, is tidy, with a sharp look and sharper rules. He smells faintly of ink. His outfit is always perfect, and somehow he detects mistakes before they happen. He thinks in lists: 2 rolls of wool, several barrels of oil, 1 visiting priest with difficult food needs. You nod and record, careful not to spill ink. Last time, you were punished with tedious copying for hours, with the steward chewing fish just beside you as you worked. Your role combines several jobs: part clerk, part errand runner, sometimes the one who's blamed when things go wrong. Lost linen, your fault. Wet firewood, your fault. If the master's dog has an accident, somehow your fault. After morning, inspections begin. You follow your master through room after room, quietly writing notes as he lifts, sniffs, and checks every item. You try not to show your tiredness. Just once, a yawn earned you a whole day organizing dry peas by size and color. Of all the castle, perhaps only the cook's dog is free to bark without worry. Noon is never restful. You oversee who eats, who sits by whom, and make sure old grudges don't ruin a meal over a pigeon pie. Seating plans, reminders about changing titles. Lady Maris now refuses to speak to Lord Henry after the wine incident. After the meal, numbers must be checked in the solar. You read aloud the endless list: candles, fish, salt, horseshoes, ink, barley, and on. Sometimes the chamberlain will quiz you. Get it wrong, and the disapproval settles heavy on your shoulders, almost worse than a scolding. Routine is shaken by visitors, knights from other lands, relatives no one expected. You record what rooms they get, what linens they use, not because thanks will come your way, but because blame will be swift if anything goes missing. You also keep the keys, or more often, fetch them: the pantry, the cellars, the upstairs wardrobes. You link them to your belt and touch them often, almost like saying a prayer, for losing the keys would bring punishment. Possibly dismissal, possibly something more humiliating, like cleaning latrines forever. As the sun sets, logistics pile up. The salt fish shipment is late. A velvet roll is missing. The priest overindulged and sleeps on the chapel floor. The kitchen has no vinegar. The stables are short on hay. The steward has many suggestions. You listen, nod, and sometimes write polite replies for your superior to send. Sometimes it's love notes, oddly enough. A noble lady dictating her wishes in secret, feeding her dog fruit, while you transform her words into sensible letters. You trim away the nonsense and pass them on, watching the recipient blush. Evening is for candles again, lighting, trimming, making sure hallways are not left dark. The upper rooms mellow, nobles gathered to drink, servants allowed a moment's rest. You go between these two worlds, belonging to neither, needed by both. You check the guest rooms again, adjust every detail, make sure nothing is amiss. By now, your feet are heavy, your head throbbing, fingers marked with wax and ink stains. Still, you do not eat until your master finishes his own meal and releases you. Sometimes he forgets. You wait outside his door for an hour or more while he shares old stories with an uninterested page. At last, you are dismissed. A small wave of his hand, a murmured thanks on your lips. Your bed is narrow, your blanket missing, your body half-dressed as you lie down. You wonder, just briefly, if this is what importance smells like: wax and ink and nervous sweat. You once thought that being close to the rich and powerful meant hearing real secrets, learning their ways. Now you know the secrets, mostly complaints, aches, and daily annoyances. Power, it turns out, is just more rules, with added chances to get things wrong. And that is the end of another day. They tell you, you're learning discipline. Really what you're learning is how exhaustion shapes you, how to disappear and still be necessary, how to be someone everyone relies on and no one seems to see. You speak the language of quiet, present in every corner, yet easy to overlook. Sometimes they talk about advancement. Maybe one day you'll help the steward or handle accounts in the solar, but it's likely you'll keep at this until your body starts to fail, your back weakening, your eyes growing dim beside candlelight and ledgers. No retirement waits, just a life that slows day by day. Still, you arrive, because your hands hold things together, because without you the order falls apart, because someone has to check if there's enough salt for the snow and enough grain for the cold, and if you don't do it, someone will know. You drift to sleep, counting barrels in your mind, dreaming of supplies. Before the bell rings at dawn, you awake. The darkness still clings. You rise, stretching sore legs, adjusting shoes that never quite fit, relighting candles for another morning. The others endure you, but don't embrace you. You're apart from them now. Your clothes are a little cleaner. You say things like stock and ledger, yet you don't belong upstairs either. The noblemen forget your face even as you tend their lamps, fill their ink pots. You move between worlds, a symbol of how power seeps downward and burdens always flow the other way. Still, you keep coming back, because if you don't, nothing stays in place. Tomorrow, as today, you'll check lists, count candles, and take the blame when anything is amiss. Your day starts before the sun, in a barn that never truly sleeps. Horses shuffle and stamp in the chill, their breath turning to mist. The stalls are layered with straw, and sometimes you see a rat slip through the shadows. You are the stable hand. That means you shovel, brush, drag heavy loads. You get kicked, more than you'd like, but spend more time apologizing to animals more graceful and better fed than you'll ever be. At night, you sleep in the loft above, if that's what you can call it. The floorboards are thin, and every move down below reaches your dreams. Tails swish and hooves thump the boards, sometimes so close you wonder if they're in your bed too. Your hands are rough with cracks before morning comes. You pull on the same stiff boots and the same pungent shirt, then climb down the ladder. Cold air hits you like a sharp warning. You start cleaning each stall, one after another, shoveling, pitching, repeating. There's no glory here, just chores that need doing before the horsemaster arrives. If you falter, you earn a bruise and a scolding on how to work properly. You move quickly but never too fast. Anxious movement unsettles horses. They kick, bite, rear, and crush. 2 fingers have healed crooked, and once a hoof caught you so hard you spit blood for days. Still, you're drawn to them. Horses don't pretend, don't scold, don't demand more than you can give. The barn smells, a strange blend of hay, sweat, and manure, but you've grown used to it. You can tell a healthy horse from a sick one, can sense when nerves have them twitchy, just from how they breathe. These creatures are simpler than people. After the stalls are done, you fetch feed. The bags are heavy and high in the loft, and you lower them one at a time, slowly, hoping your back holds this time, not like last winter when you collapsed from the pain and still got called lazy. Feeding is a careful process. Each horse has different habits. Some snatch at your hands, some shrink away. You wear the scars on your arms. You soothe them with soft words, gentle pats, checking hooves and coats until they relax. They recognize your voice. They trust you more than anyone upstairs likely ever will. When the grooming hour comes, you brush and comb, wipe noses, pull burrs, dig manure from hooves. If the Lord plans to ride, every buckle and bridle gleams. Not because he'll notice, but because the horsemaster inspects everything, and if there's any mistake, you get the punishment. Sometimes the nobles bring their hounds, loud and nervous, and with more pride than sense. You clean up after them as well, and no one thanks you. When the Lord decides to ride, everything changes in a heartbeat. You saddle the favored gelding, the one who barely allows a hand on his coat. You check and recheck and clean every strap. Stirrups set just so, too high as always, but it's not for you to question. You step aside, silent and unseen, as he mounts up. If the horse fidgets, it's on your head. If he slips in mud, if he's thrown, again, your error. You'll be reminded for weeks. In the quiet moments after, you fetch water, sweep the yard, stack more hay. The smells stick to your skin. Muscles throb, some you didn't know you had. Sometimes you rest, but it's not real rest. You sit on a worn stool, sipping stale ale from a tin, watching sunbeams and dust drift by. You don't talk. Your body aches too much to bother. The work continues. In winter, you can barely feel your fingers, even inside gloves. The water troughs freeze and crack. You break the ice with an old hammer so the horses can drink. In summer, sweat soaks every layer of fabric. When evening comes, flies gather in swarms, buzzing while you finish cleaning. An aging mare soils her bed over and over, a sure sign of bad weather approaching. You feel it in your joints before the sky turns. One last round, sweeping, scrubbing, raking the troughs with a patchy old brush no one ever replaces but you. The horsemaster surveys once more. A small sound from him means the day ended well. A raised voice means you got something wrong. You sneak treats to the horses. A carrot for the gentle gray, another for the chestnut who distrusts strangers. They nudge your fingers, searching for kindness. As night falls, you climb to the loft. Your bed is a rough pile of rags and straw, carrying the scents of mildew and leather. You collapse fully clothed, because it's just a few hours until you'll need everything back on. You listen to horses breathing and wind in the boards, counting hoofbeats. Before daylight, you'll rise again. No one calls your name in the halls. They call you boy, even as you near adulthood and your back aches. They shy from your scent. It's the smell of honest dirt and sweat, a reminder of work they never do. Sometimes, someone nods. A kitchen girl gives you scraps. The blacksmith nods hello. Once, a knight handed you a coin for steadying his horse before a battle. You keep it, not to spend, but to remind yourself you aren't completely unseen. You know your future. There's no ladder that rises from here to the steward's place, no path from brush to sword or saddle to knighthood. But you know animals, how to patch a wound, relax a frightened foal, spot trouble early. You make a difference, quietly. You've seen what happens to boys who can't bear it. They break, run, or simply vanish one night, questions never asked. You just do your work and keep your eyes lowered. When it rains, the stable leaks. In summer, hay spoils. In winter, frost clings everywhere. But the horses are waiting, breathing, always searching for your steady hands. That's enough, most of the time. So tonight, you close your eyes and listen for peaceful sounds in the straw and wood, the weight of hooves, soft breaths, all reminding you that these creatures judge no one. As dawn nears, it all begins again. You are the stable hand. The horses need you. You don't stay for praise. There's none to be had. You stay because they greet you with familiar sounds, because your steps calm them, and because in a world filled with orders and blame, this is the one place you're trusted, not because of who you are, but because of how gently you move and how closely you listen. That kind of trust is rare in a castle. Often you wake to a paw brushing your face. It belongs to the kitchen's small spit dog, short-legged and long like a loaf of bread, who's crawled across your straw, his coat sticky with grease and kitchen fat. You don't mind. He's warm and, truth be told, cleaner than your coworkers. You care for these dogs, the invisible bridge between the kitchen's endless feasts and the grueling, quiet rhythm that keeps them running. The dogs turn the great spit, roasting the meats. It's your job to see they keep moving. Don't snap, don't drop mid-shift. So you rise before the ovens are hot, stretch until your bones settle, and immediately step in something damp. Hopefully water, probably not. The dogs know what comes next. You coax the first, an old fellow named Scratch, from his bed. He nips at you, but not hard. He's tired, and you can't blame him. He's worked 3 days in a row. You gently rub his ears, apologizing, and guide him toward the fire. The cook is already complaining loudly. The spit wheel, a massive thing, waits. The dog steps in. You close the barred door behind him, and as he walks, the roast begins to turn. You watch carefully, urging them on, but not too much. Slow, and the meat cooks wrong, and you catch a thrown ladle. If the dog stops, everything slides, and your morning is misery. There are 4 dogs, and you switch them often, 2 at work, 2 at rest. But they never really relax. They whine and fidget and gnaw old bones. You rub stiff legs and offer gentle encouragement, as if preparing them for battle. You clean the spit wheels, too, so they won't squeak and draw the cook's anger. You learned your lesson about that, the hard way, a month ago, when a loud shriek earned you a swollen bump on your head. Sometimes the Lord himself passes by, glancing only at the roasting meat, complimenting the taste. That special flavor is mostly your sweat and a bit of stray dog hair. Feeding the dogs is its own challenge. They aren't supposed to eat from the nobles' plates, but a handful of peas alone won't keep their strength up. When no one's watching, you slip them scraps, bits of fat, gravy-soaked bread. They reward you with licks until one, hungrily, almost takes off your hand. Burns are a daily risk. Your arms bear the marks. And even in winter, the kitchen feels like a furnace. In summer, the heat is nearly unbearable. The flames never rest, and you sleep nearby, rarely noticed but always there if needed. You breathe so much smoke every day your cough sounds hollow, and your eyes burn red, masking old tears. You've learned turnspit dogs are not the friendly companions outsiders imagine. They're bred to keep moving, nothing more. They want food, not comfort, and if you're late, they'll tear up what little you have. One time, your only spare shoe was destroyed. No one taught you how to train them. You learned by trial and error and with a few scars. You keep a stick for the worst days, though you hate to use it. Some dogs just refuse to run, looking at you with quiet understanding. You've named them all: Scratch, Dipper, Patch, and Growl. Growl is difficult, but shows you his softer side after a treat of bacon grease. Once, the Lord's daughter spotted the spit wheel and called it a spinning puppy. You smiled until her governess whisked her away, glaring as if you'd done something wrong. You said nothing. You never do. Your posture has changed after years of ducking beneath beams, crouching by the fire, or dragging still hot spits from the flames. Calluses toughen your hands, and your knees groan when the rain falls. You're 17, old before your time. You dreamed of being a falconer once, guiding birds beneath wide skies. Now, the clatter of paws drowns any bird song you might hear. In rare quiet, you slip outside the kitchen door and settle with one of the dogs, usually Patch, the calmest, by your side. There, you close your eyes for a precious moment. Then work calls again, meat to turn, dogs to check. No one thanks you for it. At night, you scrub grime from your arms with rough sand and quiet prayers. You find rest wherever there's straw and the slow breathing of dogs. You dream only of running. Nowhere in particular, always running. The turning wheel fills your sleep. You've heard the nobles talk about the charm of a busy kitchen. They mean the gleaming platters, the roasted swan, the mingled scents of feast and garden. They don't know the effort behind it, or you, or the dogs that make it happen. To them, it's just a detail, a song for the minstrels, the kitchen dogs keeping dinner warm for House Grayridge. Once, behind the pantry door, a bard claimed the spit dogs like the exercise. Your laugh almost choked you. You've learned patience here. You don't argue, you don't grumble, you just keep the work in motion. You feed and tend and hope injury stays away. Last summer, a boy lost his hand in the gears. He's gone now, but no one knows where. You tuck a pouch behind a beam containing a little cheese, a pretty button, and a lost tooth from one of the dogs. These are your treasures, a reminder that even the meanest animals can break down too. Your ears ring from shouts and heat and the eternal spin. Hunger follows you, but every so often, a tired dog rests its head on your arm. In that small kindness, you feel noticed, not by the castle, not by the cook, but by the beating heart of something living. For now, that's enough. Because here, every gentle moment, a dog at peace, a quiet breath, matters deeply, especially in a place where the fire and the wheels never stop. You fall asleep to the sound of paws pacing wood, and wake to the same, as if the darkness itself is always in motion. Before dawn, you rise in the dark and cold. The walls hold no heat for workers like you. The fires have died down to ashes, breath hanging misty above your rough blanket. Every joint aches from yesterday. Even before you touch water, your hands hurt. You are Mara, part of the washing crew. Your days revolve around water and lie, fire and weary muscles. You dress in silence, pulling on a damp wool dress, smelling of tallow and smoke. Your apron is stained with salt, sweat, and marks from boiling soap. You tie a cloth round your hair, slip your feet into worn shoes, and move fast. You're running behind, always. The castle is quiet as you move along chilly corridors, baskets stacked high with yesterday's soiled clothes, sweaty undershirts, fear-soaked linens, napkins stained with things best not named. Anything belonging to a noble carries extra weight. Any flaw is a grave offense. You've seen girls dismissed for a scorched tablecloth, nearly got whipped yourself over a misplaced shirt. In the yard, you fill heavy buckets from the well, the water biting cold, the weight digging into your shoulders. You pass barns, scullery, smokehouse until you reach the boiling pot, blackened from yesterday's fires. With shaky hands, you start the flames, striking flint until smoke stings your eyes and your fingers ache with chill. You add lye, made from ash you collected and soaked, stirring with a wooden spatula. The liquid clouds. You keep your hands far from the edge. The burns from your last slip are still healing. While water heats, you sort laundry, coarse for the rough wash, fine for careful handling. The master's shirts and the ladies' slips are handled with anxious care, not for the fabric, but for what happens if they're returned any less than perfect. Wool is different, never boiled. You once saw a cloak shrunk to doll's size from neglect, and you remember well. You start the soak. Linens into hot lye, gently stirred to loosen deep stains and smells. Then comes scrubbing at the stone slab near the well. You kneel beside cool rock, pressing shirts and tunics against it, and working thick soap into the weave, rubbing until your knuckles ache. The cloth grows heavy with water, hard to rinse clean. When you dunk it in fresh water, the darkness clouds out. You allow yourself a faint smile. Progress. The rinse water numbs your fingers, but you keep switching hands, blowing warmth onto your knuckles and flexing your wrist to keep going. You know others. The wood girl, the cook's helper, work in the cold too. It doesn't help your own pain, but at least you're not alone. When the worst stains are washed out, you drag the big pieces to the stream behind the outer walls. There, alongside women from the village, you beat them with wooden paddles, sheets, towels, tablecloths, all splashing mud up your sleeves, pounding away the dirt. No one talks. There's just water, wood, and the occasional weary sigh. Twisting the cloth dry is another struggle. Shoulders screaming, hands slippery and raw. You hang everything on bushes or long lines, hoping for some sun. In winter, you string it near the fire, praying not to spark a blaze. The cycle repeats. Feed the flames, stir new batches, bring more water, always losing track of time. By midday, even your forearms go numb. By afternoon, your lower back is tight as rope. But sometimes, one small triumph, a veil comes clean, a crimson stain finally gone, brings pride, until you spot a tear and know it means more mending. When all the washing hangs, steaming in the light, you let yourself rest a moment, sitting atop an overturned bucket. You break off a crust of bread, hard but enough, and eat slowly, watching cloth flutter in the wind. Then it's back to sorting the dry, folding stiff shirts, searching for overlooked spots. You stack the fine things, garments for the nobles, in a separate basket, layering pieces of cloth between them as if to armor them from mistakes. You deliver these quietly, eyes down, attracting no attention. At the kitchen doorway, you share a tired nod with the scullery girl, hands red from fish and onions. Inside, the cook shouts for rags. You hand over a neat bundle and slip away before she remembers your name. The last stop, the Lord's chamber. You knock, pass in your basket, bow, and step away. No thanks. He closes the door. Your hands are sore, your neck stiff, your back twisted, but nothing's missing. Nothing's damaged. That means a good day. Back outside, you bank the fire, empty the tubs, rinse the stones free of soap. You spot a sheet, half muddied, grabbed before anyone notices. You'll wash it again tomorrow. No point in complaint. As the sun sets behind the walls, you sit longer by the fire, warming hands that throb with pain. Your nails are ragged, fingers peeling, but they still serve. In your pocket, you keep a bit of rag, once a towel, now turned into a small handkerchief you've worked on in spare scraps of time. Tonight, you won't sew, but just knowing it's there brings quiet comfort. You eat with the other workers. Hot stew, hard bread, weak ale, eating quickly, quietly. Then you return to your bed by the chimney. The day is done. Tomorrow will repeat. Water, soap, fire, pain. But for now, you sleep. You know the routines. When a horse starts rolling in the stall, you rush in, halter at the ready. You pull her to her feet before she twists something, walking her until her breathing slows. The stable master comes, barking orders and taking over. You step away, arms shaking, tunic dirty and torn. But the horse stands, and that's a victory. There's still work. Travelers arrive, their horses nervous. You quiet them, patient and gentle through nips and skittish hooves. Feed, sweep, patch a torn strap, anything needing repair. As the sun disappears, you shut the doors, hang up lanterns, check every animal once more. Water full, hooves clear, coats soft. When all is well, you climb up, sprawl in the straw, and pull off boots. You're covered in filth, but still breathing, and so are the horses below. That counts for something. Up in the loft, you eat a hard-won meal, cheese, hard bread traded from the kitchen. Outside, the castle glows with torchlight. Laughter echoes from the hall. You hear music drifting on the wind and think how it sounds like a story for someone else, not for you. Horses settle, each with their own busy sounds. You lie back, arms folded, aches everywhere. You survived. None of your charges came to harm. That's enough. You think of the tales people love, knights, lords, battles in distant fields. No one ever remembers the hand that saddled the horse, the quiet words that soothed it. That doesn't matter. You're not here for legend. You're here to work, then rest. The wind rattles the doors as another day ends, and sleep pulls you under. You remember, just before you drift off, the moment you saw a perfect hoofprint in the mud, steaming, vanishing by morning, but real for now. And so are you. Suddenly you wake, spear in hand, the embers barely glowing. Only a moment's rest, but enough to jolt you back. You peer through the slit at endless dark and mist. This is your post. You do not wear a knight's armor. You aren't a soldier with a ballad to your name. Just a sentry, stationed at the gate and wall, night after night. Your knees ache, shoulder sore from yesterday's drill, when the captain knocked you hard with a wooden sword. He called it good training. You bit your tongue. Your orders are simple. Watch, pace, listen for the bell, and don't ever fall asleep. You listen now for the clock, distant and muffled, perhaps 5 hours until daylight. The wind winds through the slits and holes above, cutting and cold. You draw your thin cloak closer, but it doesn't help much. Every breath hangs cold in the air. You start your slow patrol inside the gatehouse, boots slipping on damp stone. Every flagstone, every uneven step is familiar. On the outside walk, wind beats harder, and you can hear a single dog patrolling the kitchens below. From somewhere else, laughter and distant voices, a drunk stumbling home. You mind your own business, focus on the heavy gates, checking the rusty lock, your hand freezing to the metal. The night has silence, and no one remembers the guard except when something goes wrong. Back inside, you sit again, stone seat cold beneath you, helmet off after so many hours. You rest your hand on your spear, something to lean on, maybe for courage, maybe just balance. A small sound makes you stand too quickly, something moving near the frame. Silence. Perhaps just frost shifting, or a bird roosting in the wood. You wait, count heartbeats, then return to your seat. You're restless, can't let your mind wander or your senses dull. A strip of dried meat serves as your supper, chewed slow, jaw tired. You remember when a noble boy sneered at your food, all pastry and fine cloth, while you sat and watched, silent as you always are. That's your duty. Keep silent, watch, endure. You remember your first winter here, fingers bloody and cracked, toes numb and purple. You learned to wrap extra wool in your boots, grease your gloves. It made a small difference. At midnight, the bell tolls. You walk the wall, past the armory and chapel. You pause at the chapel window. A flicker of light shows that the priest is still awake, praying. You climb to the highest wall, seeing the black woods sway in the mist, the moon pale to the east. Everything is still, and yet you see everything, feel everything. Your mind drifts to the farm where you grew up, harvests and cider and faces you miss. You hope they're safe. You return just as the last coals die. You don't bother relighting them. The cold keeps you awake anyway. As the sky starts to lighten, the captain arrives. His boots sound sharp on stone, eyes sweeping over you, checking the notes, knocking the rack of pikes. "You still breathing?" he grunts. You nod. He walks on. No praise, never a kind word. You're here because someone must be. When he leaves, you loosen your joints, rolling your aching shoulder. Soon, bells will sound. Day guards will arrive, loud and fresh-faced. You'll pass on your spear, slip into silence, descend the stairs to the barracks, and collapse onto your rough cot. The blanket smells of long days and old smoke, but it's yours. You peel off cloak and boots, let your weight drop, lying still. As your eyes close, the castle comes alive again, yelling from the yard, the cook's voice echoing. You've earned your rest, but you know you'll be back. The castle depends on its guards to hold the line. You can remember, last year, a band of hungry men tried breaking into the castle. It was late, most guards half asleep. You sounded the bell, shouted, held the gate until backup arrived. There was fear, blood, and pain. You fought, and you survived. No thanks, just a crust of bread from the steward and a nod from the captain. You did what you had to. That was it. The bruises and frostbite faded, and then you were posted right back on the gate. That's how you know they trust you now. Your reward is more of the same job. You shift again on your cot, feeling the old ache in your hip from years of leaning on stone. You've gotten used to pain, hunger, cold, scorn from the nobles, always knowing you'll be the first sent out if things go truly wrong. Yet in this, there's a pride, quiet, unrecognized, but true. You keep the castle safe, unseen. That matters, even if no one notices. You check your gear, adjusting worn leather and iron. Your helmet, battered, hangs by your bed. You could replace it, but you don't. It's still enough. Around you, the other guards sleep soundly. One snores, another twitches. You envy them. You sleep with a knife under your pillow, cloak around your feet, knowing that if disaster ever strikes, it's you they'll send first. That's the life of a sentry. For these few hours, you let yourself rest, unburdened, if only for a little while. You start your shift in silence, not because there's anyone nearby to disturb, but because the others have all gone. The scullery maid sleeps near the fires, the stable boy vanished above the barn, the cook snores somewhere out of sight. But your rounds begin in the darkest, quietest hours. You're the night watchwoman. You're not clad in armor, and you don't bear a sword. You walk the halls with a lantern in one hand and a set of keys in the other, ready for trouble whether it's a fire, a cry, or something out of place. Your feet are muffled by patched shoes, tied with strings. Your dress is thick wool, layered for warmth against biting drafts. Your lantern catches as it's lit, the small flame twitching shadows along every wall. First, you pass the nursery, noble children sleeping under decorated quilts. Their names don't matter, but you know which one coughs at night and which suffers nightmares. You smooth down blankets and move on, careful not to wake anyone. Next, the tapestry hall, walled with scenes of war, heroism, and glory. Your lamp glances off ancient faces as you walk slowly by, shadows shivering on embroidered nights. Something creaks behind you, but you never flinch. Not your task to be afraid. You stop at the library, locked for the night, and test the handle. The last time it was left open, rodents ruined a stack of precious writings. Satisfied, you head for the chapel, where a lone candle flickers. You snuff it gently. A hidden spark could cause disaster. Just to be safe, you check that the iron holder is cool. Then keep going. Up narrow stairs, lantern high, muscles weak from your third round tonight. Each footstep measured, each ear alert for what sounds right and what doesn't. The castle has its own living sounds, wood shifting, mice rushing, water collecting on stone. You know each one, and catch anything unusual. In the east wing, you discover a window left unlatched. It should have been bolted after supper. You close it quietly. No need to report it. Ghost tales are not for the steward to believe, but you trust what you can't see. Next is the laundry room. Cloth that hung warm this afternoon now hangs cool and stiff. A rich robe has gotten too close to the torch and singed at the hem. You sigh. You'll mend it before anyone notices, stitching by the dying fire while your fingers fight exhaustion. The kitchen corridor draws you next. A pot left just off the heat still steams. You lift the lid, find thin broth, and quietly sop up enough for a taste, just to remind yourself you exist. You don't eat with the others, but have learned where leftovers and old cheese are tucked away. The cook never mentions it. She may guess, perhaps remembering days like yours. At the stairway up to the Lord's rooms, you do not venture further. That's a different world, one of down feathers and warm slippers, of voices that matter. You see it only from below. On your way back through the servants' quarters, you hear a baby's cry. You knock, hand a sleepy mother a flask of warm water, and slip away without a word. Sometimes, when the castle sleeps, you feel the heaviness of so many lives carved into these stones. The floors were scrubbed by women long gone, the arches above your head shaped centuries before. You do not feel small. You feel part of something bigger that keeps you moving hour after hour. Just before dawn, you make your last round. The candle is nearly spent. Shadows flicker on the walls, stretching into new shapes. You pass storage, searching for signs of trouble. Stray rats, a spark that could spell disaster. The armory door sits open a crack. That isn't right. Your heart flutters, but you enter quietly, armed with only keys and a firm voice. You check every hook and rack, swords untouched, axes safely stacked. Just a loose latch, perhaps stirred by the wind, but you close the bolt firmly. Finally, you sit at your small seat near the kitchen's hearth, lowering the lantern and drawing out needle and thread to mend the cloak you carried. Stitches are slow, but each is neat, and you finish as the bells mark dawn. The castle stirs now, footsteps and voices signaling a new day. You tuck the cloak safely away and climb up to your narrow cot above the laundry. It's little more than a shelf, but it's yours. Curling up like a folded letter, you let sleep come, feeling the building settle all around. Sometimes, in the darkest moments, you lose track of the hour. The castle waits, untouched by time, full of breath and shadow. Every groan, every rattle, every draft has meaning. You can tell the difference between a loose timber and a howl of wind. In your apron you keep some salt, not to season bread, but to ward away misfortune. The cook whispered that it keeps bad things at bay. You never question it. You just carry the pouch with you. Near the old chapel, there's a patch of stone that's always cold, no matter the season. You step around it, as you always have, never mentioning it aloud. Sometimes, you pass a noble's mistress sneaking between rooms. You keep your eyes down. Secrets are not yours to hold, but you still keep them quiet. Once, you saw the steward slip candles from the chapel for his own use. Neither of you spoke about it, but the next week, you received a thick blanket, folded neatly on your bed. You never thanked him. These are the silent trades of castle life. Favors granted in hush and glance, not in words or money. In these hours, just before the birds begin, you reach the big window looking out over the empty yard. You let your lantern grow dim, looking instead at the sharp, distant stars, always there, no matter how hard the day. You think of your mother's wisdom. She always said the night listened to women at work. Maybe that's true. You've whispered your worries and hopes to the stillness. None have been answered, but the act is its own comfort. You stretch aching arms, take a last deep breath, and begin another round. The same halls, same doors, same deep shadows, because someone must. Tonight, as most nights, that person is you.